And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning here on KIDO Talk Radio. Phone number is 580-5436. 580-KIDO. It is Friday, and if you missed our interview with Eric Trump, we'll play that coming up very, very shortly. Do want to remind you the Kevin Miller money word of the day for the 6 o'clock hour is spend. If you win up to $5,000 on KIDO Talk Radio, you'll have a lot of money to spend, particularly Kevin Miller's money. And if you listen at 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. with Sean Hannity, you could spend a lot of money. Anyway, more details at KIDOTalkRadio.com. Joining us now from Alberta, Canada, Karen Strom. Karen, thank you very much for joining us once again.
Oh, thank you for having me.
This is right up your alley, men being vilified in our society today.
Yes. Judge Kavanaugh, I am just absolutely blown away by that whole situation. So, and frankly, as far as I'm concerned, regardless of the truth or falsity of the allegation made, the way that it was disclosed, when it was disclosed, how long that they had this letter in their possession, they had it in their possession all through the hearings, waited until the hearings were done. Everything was, the ink was barely dry on the paper, and it was just a matter of signing off, and then they trotted out. And that just strikes me as a cynical ploy, particularly since the accuser has said that she's not going to testify in front of the committee until after the FBI investigates, which it won't. Because it's not a federal crime, number one, and because this is a 35, 36-year-old allegation that has absolutely no evidence, and it's so vague in its details, there's no way to investigate it. So essentially, she's saying, well, I'm just not going to testify, and the Democrats are saying, well, we're not going to, this shouldn't be approved, the confirmation shouldn't happen until after this is dealt with. I don't know, when would that be? Sometime after the midterms? Do you think? Maybe? Is that what they're going for? So, like the entire thing, in terms of what has been done with this letter, that is like absolutely just super cynical politicking there, and a way to undermine the democratic process, undermine the actual process of the confirmation. So, I think that they can do this with a straight face, without a look of just absolute shame in themselves while they're doing it, is just, it blows me away. And as for the allegation itself, highly dubious. I would suggest that I try to reserve judgment on any allegation of a serious misconduct, but this just doesn't seem to be credible at all. So
why are men afraid to just call her out?
Oh, because they'll be called rape apologists, and they'll be called misogynists, and they'll be called sexists, and they'll be called woman haters, and they'll be accused of and you see this all the time on social media. Well, only a rapist would defend a rapist, so you must be a rapist too, and all of this stuff, and it's like sticking up for due process is some kind of crime now, and the fact that the erosion of due process is being spearheaded by intersectional feminists, right, and social justice types who are supposedly sticking up for minorities as well as women. Well, when due process goes out the window, it never really works out well for disadvantaged and marginalized men. That's for sure. So, minority men, men of color, never works out well for them. So I don't know what they think they're doing. It seems to me that, you can't say all black men are bad. You can't say all Hispanic men are bad. You can't say all Asian men are bad. What you can say, though, is all men, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, Aboriginal, all men are bad. You can say that, and that includes all of those subcategories of men as well. So I don't understand the ideology whatsoever in terms of its internal inconsistencies and its ability to essentially vilify men, and it's the fact that so many men just sit back and take it. They're just absolutely terrified to stand up for themselves or for other men.
Well, Karen, I want you to listen to this and get your thoughts on it here on KIDO Talk Radio.
I expect the men in this country and the men in this committee, and many of them, believe me, because we all signed on to this letter to demand an FBI investigation. But really, guess who's perpetuating all of these kinds of actions? It's the men in this country. And I just want to say to the men in this country, just shut up and step up.
Oh, that was lovely.
That's from Senator Mazie Hirono.
Yeah, no, I have to go back to a tweet by James Woods commenting on that, there are cemeteries all over the world, hallowed cemeteries all over the world filled with men who did the right thing. And we're looking at this blanket commentary on men, coming from the highest, halls of power, from women in there, and that edict, that fiat, just shut up and step up, right? Know your role, men. I mean, what is with these feminists? They're like, oh, gender roles are toxic. Gender roles are unhealthy. It's unhealthy to be forced into a narrow definition of what it means to be a woman or what it means to be a man, right up until they start bossing men around and telling them to be real men. Step up and shut up and protect women and rescue women and all of those things. Well, frankly, as far as I'm concerned, and I say this over and over and over again, and I would say it to this particular accuser, because who knows whether this happened or not. If you have been sexually assaulted, report it when it happens. Report it when it happens. Provide as much clear and evidence as you can to the police. Get a rape kit done if there's any physical evidence that could help the case. Even if your case goes nowhere, even if nothing is done in your case by the police, because there's not enough evidence, or even because they just don't seem interested in helping you. The fact that guy's name and description and all of that is on record, 90% of rapists, 90% of men who rape women are recidivists. They will go on and do it again to somebody else. You are letting a rapist get away with it and victimize others if you do not report it. And when the next woman comes in, and this is the second report, concerning this particular guy, or the third, then the cops will actually have more ability and possibly willingness to take action. This is just how it works, and if you don't have loyalty to the truth, if you don't have loyalty to justice or principle or any of those things, at least have loyalty to the sisterhood and don't just walk away, and because it's a little uncomfortable, maybe it's embarrassing, it's upsetting, it's distressing to report. Don't condemn other women in the future to having the same thing happen to them, because it will. It will. If you were genuinely assaulted, it almost certainly will. 90% of the time, he will go on to do it to someone else.
Well, and the same people, though, that are, already convicting Kavanaugh were defending Bill Clinton. Here's Senator Kirsten Gillibrand.
Frankly, I believe her. I believe what she said. It rings true to me. How she's divulged it, who she's divulged it to over time, over many years. That's exactly what happens when someone has this kind of trauma.
And then you have people, and Karen, this is right up your alley, then you have people saying, well, the optics are bad for Republicans because they're all men. As if, again, I don't understand where being a man, you're a lower-tiered person.
Oh, well, I mean, the optics in terms of, all of the Republicans on the committee are men, so all of the people who would be questioning this poor woman are men. And that is bad optics, just in terms of everything that I understand about these issues. When men are getting a divorce and it's going to be a contentious, combative divorce, everybody recommends that they get a female lawyer. Same with being accused of sexual assault. If you're going to go to trial, get a female lawyer, because women can get away with questioning female complainants and female witnesses in ways that make if men were to do it, they would look like bullies or they would look like misogynists. And it really is a matter of optics. And it really is unfortunate that the Republicans don't have a couple of tough women on that committee to ask the really, really difficult questions of this woman if she ever testifies.
Indeed. Karen Strom joining us, a voiceformen.com, a voiceformen.com. Okay, what about Bert and Ernie being gay? Your thoughts?
Oh, my thoughts. I think it's sort of similar to the J.K. Rowling thing that happened a few years ago, maybe back in 2008 or something like that, where she came out publicly and said, you know, while I was writing those books, Dumbledore was always gay in my mind. And you had two groups of people who were outraged. So you had the sort of more traditional community going, no, he wasn't. How dare you say that? And then you had the LGBTQ community saying, well, then why didn't you write him as gay? Why didn't you make his gayness part of his character? And, you know, as if he should have been running Big Gay Dumbledore's Big Gay Academy. And it's the same, I think, with Bert and Ernie, is the writer had a particular, I guess, relationship dynamic in his mind when he was doing the writing, and it was based, he said, on his relationship with his long-term partner. But that Sesame Street never had that in mind when they, you know, sort of created those characters. And so there's this disagreement between the writer who was the head writer of those characters and the owners of those characters. You know, and he doesn't own the copyright on Bert and Ernie. Those are not his intellectual property. That was all work for hire. Those are owned by the production company that produces Sesame Street. So they really have the final say. But essentially, I think it's just a great big nothing. It's a non-controversy in terms of, I guess the guy has his own personal agenda in coming out and announcing, you know, after all these years that, yes, you know, I always envisioned them as gay. But I think it's inappropriate in terms of even just portraying a sexual relationship to that age of viewer. These are preschoolers, and even the heterosexual relationships, even there was one couple, was it Gordon and Maria, who were married, or you assumed that they were married. They didn't really engage in any kind of romantic anything during the program. I mean, I watched it with my kids, and I never saw anything that would lead me to believe that there was like some kind of romantic or sexual undercurrent there. And you can't even, you know, some people have said, you know, what about Miss Piggy and Kermit? Well, that was on a primetime show that was more geared towards the entire family rather than directed at specifically preschoolers. So essentially, you're looking at false equivalences being made there. I don't know.
Why not just focus on the ABCs instead of indoctrinating these kids?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think that Bert and Ernie, I don't think that there was anything within the relationship as it was portrayed on screen that was any way inappropriate. You know, like, sure, there was always this sort of speculation among the public, among adults and silly people, you know, are Bert and Ernie gay? And there was, you know, the gags that were made on Family Guy and other shows about Bert and Ernie being gay. But essentially, I don't think that there was anything on the show itself that would really put that, you know, out in such a way that it would be, you know, kind of in your face. And so, like, I don't think Sesame Street has an agenda. I think maybe the writer himself has an agenda. In terms of, you know, his own personal agenda in terms of why he came out and made this announcement. But I don't think Sesame Street has any kind of agenda or anything. And they've made a very clear statement that, yeah, no, Bert and Ernie aren't gay. They're friends and roommates.
Well, and they're Muppets. Karen Strom, a voiceformen.com. We always appreciate you. Thank you for starting your day so early with us, ma'am.
Oh, thank you so much for having me again.
All right. We appreciate you.
She is asking the FBI to investigate her claims. She is asking for that kind of review, that investigative work that oversight, that accountability, because she's telling
Yeah, kind of the oversight, Comey, Strzok, Page, that type of oversight, right, Senator?
the truth. Someone who is lying does not ask the FBI to investigate their claims.
Of course, someone who's lying wants to face their accuser. Apparently, Christine Ford says she will not be in the same room with Judge Kavanaugh.
This is a fast track. They are totally intent on getting Judge Kavanaugh onto the Supreme Court, come hell or high water.
Here's the thing. This is, again, what Alexander Hamilton warned about, mob rule, just destroying an innocent man.
You're unlawfully demonstrating. If you do not cease and desist, you will be placed under arrest.
There we have it, people protesting at poor old Senator Grassley's office. And this is how a republic falls. Pete in Mountain Home, thanks for your patience. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning, sir. I think some of the issue that we have on why she cannot remember where this happened or when it happened exactly is shown. There is a really good screen grab of their 1982 yearbook on Lucianne.com. And they took the yearbook down, but not before there's another website that grabbed it, and you can go to Lucianne and find it there. And apparently this very exclusive young school for young ladies in Maryland they bragged about the drunken parties that they had at people's houses. They bragged about the sexual encounters they had. Apparently it was party hardy all the time. The socialist from New York may be the it girl, but I think Dr. What's-Her-Face here is maybe the party girl. And it's entirely possible she cannot remember because she was at so many drunken parties that it's just really hard to pin down which one that she wants to accuse Mr. Kavanaugh of. And that's probably why she doesn't want a lawyer interrogating her, because a lawyer would ask her to comment on the entire party, drunken party bragging and atmosphere at that school.
Well, that's the issue. I mean, all of a sudden, you're going to, when you sue someone, there's a thing called discovery on both sides.
Yep, and she doesn't want any of that to come out because that's just not right that people should know that and I read some of it, and I mean, there's, for 15 to 18-year-olds, this is some pretty blatant wild party and sex kind of, they were bragging about it in this yearbook. So yeah, it's still, you can go to Lucianne.com and there's a website that saved it after the school took it down.
Pete, we appreciate you. Thank you.
You bet.
We want to remind everybody, if you missed our interview with Eric Trump, we will play that for you coming up after the 6:30 news. Traffic and weather together. KIDO Talk Radio. It is 6:27. Kevin Miller in the morning.
Jim Duffy.
Liberty Linda joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Liberty Linda.
Good morning, Kevin. I think we should wait until after Christmas before we question Dr. Ford. I mean, what's the hurry in this?
Right.
There's nothing to hurry us about this. I know it's so ludicrous of what's going on. We turn the television on and we sit there with our mouths open thinking, everyone can see what's going on. They want to delay. It's just totally unbelievable. But Kevin, Eric Trump yesterday, our dreams have come true. It was so exciting to hear, and he called into you, of course. And, I was wondering, where are we going to put President Trump when he comes here? I was thinking about the stadium across from where you dress up as a turkey twice a year. I don't remember the name of it, but there's enough parking there. It's large enough. It would be perfect.
The Idaho Center.
The Idaho Center, yes. What do you think about that? I think it would be a perfect place.
I agree with you. I do agree with you. I think it would be great to have him in Nampa or Meridian, but quite frankly, we hope that, Eric Trump says the president's coming, so let's make it happen.
I know it. And, maybe Washington, D.C. may pick the place. We don't know. They may have a little bit of say in that. But, Kevin, have you heard about sex, drugs, and rock and roll?
A few times.
Well, they are teaching sex in our schools, and in regard to drugs, if your child looks crossways, cross-eyed, let's say, they'll put her on drugs. So, and then I don't know about the rock and roll, but we definitely have sex and drugs in our school today. I actually know of a family in California that a judge made them put their little girl on Prozac. And, she was the one that was offended, but they put her on the drugs. So what do you do when a judge says you have to put your child on Prozac? Wasn't a very good situation, but what's going on in our schools today, absolutely crazy. So thankful that you go into our schools. And Kevin, I love the children or young adults that you talk to and some of their goals in life. It just makes it so wonderful to know that we have wonderful children out there with wonderful goals. So thank you for that, Kevin, and thank you for your wonderful show every day.
Thank you, Liberty Linda. Thank you for listening.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. David in Nampa, hang on. We'll get to you after our Eric Trump interview. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Kevin.
Joining us now, Eric Trump. Mr. Trump, thank you for joining us.
Hey, Kevin, how are you? It's great to be with you.
It is such a privilege to have you on here in Idaho, sir.
Thank you.
We love you. We love your family, and we're so happy and that y'all are going through this. We just want to let you know, sir, we appreciate everything that you and your family and your dad are doing for us, sir.
Thank you, Kevin. We love you guys. We love you guys as well. We're fighting hard.
I have to ask you, what's it like to go from being a public figure to being in business to all of a sudden, getting involved in these issues? What was it like to make this decision when your dad decided, look, I'm going to put all my personal stuff aside and open up everybody to saving America and going through this intense, unfair media scrutiny, Eric?
Yeah, listen, I remember watching him read a paper in the morning. We'd be going somewhere, he'd be reading a paper, and he'd just be shaking his head back and forth. And he'd see U.S. educational system ranked 30th in the world. He'd see America giving $150 billion to Iran, a country that absolutely hates our guts. I could go on and on. $21 trillion worth of debt. Well over doubling under Obama. 10% unemployment. I mean, if you go back a couple of years, and he's sitting there saying, "What are we doing?" After Bill Clinton signed NAFTA, Kevin, we lost 70,000 factories in this country. 70,000. I wouldn't have guessed that many factories existed in the U.S. And he'd sit there and he'd read the papers and he would shake his head saying, what are these politicians doing? They're worthless. They're not representing the American people. Wages haven't gone up in 16 years. Healthcare is a disaster. Our vets are being treated horribly. We're borrowing planes from, parts from planes and museums to use on our fighter jets because we no longer, our military has been so horribly depleted. What are these people doing? And it's really the reason he stepped in. I'll never forget that meeting. A couple days before he went down that escalator, he goes, "Listen, kids, it was Don, myself, Ivanka, Laura and Jared, my wife and Ivanka's husband, and he goes, let's do this. So let's give it a shot." And when he said let's, he meant as a family. And we went out there and we knew nothing about the system and we knew nothing about how the system worked, and we figured out how to win, and we did so as a family. We did so as a very, very lean, mean team. We spent 1/7 the amount that Hillary spent, and it's been amazing. And the guy has done a phenomenal job from every quantifiable metric. He's done an unbelievable job.
Eric Trump joins us. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Eric, I go back to this point. I mean, unemployment at record levels, employment at record levels, good levels, and yet we have a press that is partisan, that are a bunch of negative Nellies, sir.
Yeah, you know why? Because they all got it wrong. And when I say, when I say they all got it wrong, meaning the coastal media all got it wrong. And I remember the morning of Election Day, New York Times gave him a 1% chance of winning the presidency, right? So you have all these intellects. They all went to Harvard. They all went to the greatest schools, and they gave him a 1% chance of winning. And we won handedly. We won easily. And they all got it wrong, and what are they doing? They're doubling back down. But, listen, we have 4.2% GDP, one of the fastest growing GDPs in the history of our nation. We have 3.9% unemployment, one of the lowest unemployments in the history of our nation, the lowest African-American unemployment, the lowest Hispanic unemployment, the lowest female unemployment. We have wage growth for the first time in 16 years. We have 3% wage growth. He put through the largest tax cuts in the history of our nation. The average family is seeing about $2,500, additional dollars a year. He's protecting law enforcement who have been so badly abused by the Democrats. I mean, it's been an all-out war on law enforcement. The largest military spending bill in history. He's taking care of our vets. ISIS is all but gone, right? There were about 45,000 fighters that they had 2 years ago when he took office. Now they say that there was less than 1,000. Manufacturing's coming back. He's taking on prison reform. He's taking on the opioid crisis. You see the Supreme Court justices that are going through. And, you compare that with the Democrats who want to, raise taxes. They want to quadruple your taxes, which would literally tank our markets. Our markets would absolutely, you'd go into a depression if they did that. They want to criticize law enforcement for everything they do. They want to, quote-unquote, abolish ICE, brave men and women who get gang members off of our streets. And they want to outlaw plastic straws. And Kevin, it's not a message that's going to win. It's not a message that Americans believe in. And, we're going to do very well, and he's going to win this thing again. And, I'm just, as a son, I'm incredibly proud of what he's done.
Eric Trump joining us. We're proud to have him here at KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller in the morning. A headline, jobless claims, 49-year low, sir. Stocks at a record high. It's a different country under your father.
It is. I mean, the S&P 500 opened at the highest, open that's ever had this morning. I was just watching it on the news. It's up, last time I looked at it, it's up 120, 130 points, something like that today. But the highest open that the S&P, the Dow has ever had was this morning. And it's really an incredible thing. I mean, people's 401ks were up by 35%. I mean, people are doing well. Manufacturing is coming back to this country. Everybody remembers Obama. What magic wand do you have to bring manufacturing back to this country? And, all of a sudden I think he said abracadabra or something because it's flowing back in. And, beyond all of that, Kevin, this country hadn't had a cheerleader in a very long time. It hadn't had a fighter in a very long time. I mean, he's been the greatest cheerleader for this country, talking about how America is the greatest place in the world to do business. We have the best country. We have the toughest country. We're not going to get ripped off by anybody. And the rest of the world respects that toughness. We hadn't had a leader that had backbone in here for a very, very long time. And he's willing to go after China. You know what, China, you're ripping us off with the tariffs. Congratulations. I'm putting tariffs on you. I'm going to tax your products coming in. So while today our stock market's at the highest, point in history, if you look at the Asian market, it's not even reported by the media. The market in China right now is down by 21%, 21%. So they've lost 1/5 of the value of their stock market, and we're reaching record highs. And then you hear these pundits go on MSNBC in the morning, well, the trade war won't be good for America. You're sitting there saying, who's winning and who's losing this one?
Eric Trump joining us. Mr. Trump, we're trying to get your dad here. I know he's very busy. What can we do to get his attention and to help us? Idaho, it's the reddest of the red. We have Republicans, but it would be huge for the people here. And again, I know he's very, very busy. He's fighting the blue wave, the alleged blue wave on the midterms. Any thoughts on how we can bring him to Idaho?
Well, he loves the state, and I love the state, and we all love the state. And we'll be there. He'll be there. Believe me, he'll be there. He's fighting very hard, obviously, for the House and for the Senate. People have to get out there. People have to vote this midterm election. I actually think we're going to do very well. I think we're going to do very well so long as our people get out and vote. And, one of the things that we have to get over, Kevin, truthfully, is, so many people love my father, but, they don't necessarily know the candidate that might be running as a Republican. And sometimes people don't put two and two together, that meaning voting for that person is effectively like voting for my father. Without those people, he can't get his agenda done. And that's why the midterms are just as important as, quite frankly, the general election in a certain crazy way, because, if you don't have the House, if you don't have the Senate, well, then you're not putting great justices on the bench. You're not putting great judges on the various courts. You're not passing unbelievable laws. You're not doing this and that. You need both those bodies. You need Congress, and it is so important to go out and vote in November, and that's really the message that we're pushing. A vote for them is really a vote for him.
Eric Trump, we appreciate you. What would you like to say to the folks in Idaho? We've got you for 30 seconds. I know you're very busy, and again, I can't tell you how much this means to have you on with us, sir.
Yeah, Kevin, it's been a great honor. But listen, we're going to keep winning. We're going to keep winning. We finally have a fighter. We have somebody who's no nonsense. no BS. And he's going to keep winning. He's fighting harder than any person I've ever met. You see what he's doing. He's a disruptor. He's disrupting the system. It's one of the reasons that the system's lashing out as hard as it is. But we've needed that for a very long time. There's been very few people who have come and fought for this country in a very long time, on the political end. And you need that. I mean, we were going in the wrong direction by every metric, and this country's turned around. And if he's done as much as he's done with the economy and everything else in 24 months, imagine what he can do in the next 24 months and the next 4 years after that. I'm proud of him as a son. He's doing a tremendous job, and we're going to keep winning. That's what we do as Americans. We're going to keep winning.
Eric Trump, thank you, sir.
Thanks, Kevin.
There we have it on KIDO Talk Radio, our Idaho exclusive interview with Eric Trump. Let's get to David in Napa, who's been so patient. David, thank you. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Oh, thank you very much. God, I'm sorry, and I know I'm going to sound like a bad guy, but this woman and this party really do disgust me, and they disappoint me, too. It's funny. The kid, and by the way, I was in 7th grade when this happened, so I will remember. It was 1981. And that kid that Annie Oakley missed, when you were playing cops and robbers, and he would say, "You missed me," or, I was wearing a bulletproof vest, or that was a dummy of me, or I have a force field. You know what happened in 1981? Laser tag. Now that kid that said "you missed me" won't be missed, because now you knew. These people, it's like trying to catch a greased pig while nailing Jell-O to a wall. And what she's doing is what the Democrats always do. They poison pill things. It's funny. They love crooks and hate the cops. I remember hearing him just in the interview say that law enforcement's under attack. Do you remember, was it 14 years ago, the State Democrat Convention of New York? Okay, everyone there is a delegate. They're not just some schmoes off the street. The honor guard came in. Remember the police? They're in their dress uniforms. And I believe it was the American flag, the state flag, and the police flag. They were booed and they were spat on. Remember that? That's the same party that a few years later would vote God out of the party. And even our, ex-gangbanger, Metcha member, anchor baby mayor of Los Angeles knew that was bad. Remember that? And the lady said, "You got to let them go, and they're going to do what they're going to do." Remember that?
Right.
And they voted God out of the party. They love the accused. Oh, the police, they made and minimum sentencing laws are stupid. They are also an example of bad laws. Stupid laws come from bad cases. You had bleeding heart judges who were throwing away things like the cops, they ran from the police. And they said, well, in that neighborhood, it's natural to run from the police, even though they saw a drug deal go down or something like that. Okay? They love the accused. Until now. They hate the First Amendment, Second Amendment. They hate the Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, and now they hate the Sixth Amendment. He has no right to face his accuser? Really? Gee, he has no right to a speedy trial? And they do something else that they're doing. They poison pill it. Gloria Allred did it last year. The woman who lied, and everybody knew that evidence was phony. What did she say? "I'll present my evidence at the hearing." What hearing? There's not going to be a hearing, and she knows it. Okay? So she'll present her evidence, but there will never be a hearing, so she'll never present her evidence. Bill Clinton was the master of this. Another example, because that's liberal kryptonite. You know what's liberal kryptonite? For instance, give me this, okay, give me that. Oh, and give me a 3-day waiting period on buying a gun. You've just killed gun shows. So now they're doing this. Well, I'll testify. Oh, that's reasonable. You'll testify. Yes, unless that. And then when you break off negotiations, you look bad. I'm sorry. Her story. Let's go through it. 4 men, and by the way, her therapist said 4, did something. When? I don't know the year. I don't know when. I don't know where. I don't know how I got there. I don't know how I got home. And she's wanting the FBI to investigate that? Why don't you go to the police in, I think it's Bethesda. Yeah, I'm sure they're going to take that case. Somebody, I'm sorry, these are horrible. I'm sorry. Democrats, have that guy from the walk away movement. You really need to walk away. And by the way, what's her motivation? She doesn't have anything to gain? Well, I'd like to see his hate mail versus hers, number one. Number two, she has to gain is she destroys a Republican. She keeps somebody off the Supreme Court that might overthrow their blessed abortion. She makes the Democrat Senate flip. And then they block not only all of his Supreme Court, but all of his federal court nominees. That's what she has to gain.
David, great point. More coming up next. Conservative Steve, Lori, and you with me, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
I think it's a very sad situation. He's an outstanding person.
There you have it. Donald Trump yesterday with Sean Hannity talking about Judge Kavanaugh and how they've decided to destroy him. Now his accuser says she might testify Thursday, not Monday. Who made her the boss? Kevin Miller in the morning. Blessed to be a part of your day. 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Let's go to Conservative Steve. Good morning.
How you doing, Kev?
Hey, thank you for calling in.
Oh, hey, thank you for having me. Hey, I just wanted to send a message to my brother, Liberal Steve, man. Boy, over there in Texas, I don't know if the blue wave's going to make it to the shore. I heard a Republican won a district that has been held by a Democrat for 139 years over there in Texas. Wow, man. 70% Hispanic and like 30 or 40% African American, and they chose a Republican for the first time in 139 years in Texas. So I'm not too sure the blue wave's going to even make it to the shore, brother.
Well, that would be refreshing. And, it's not like the media would ever mislead us.
Oh, they never do. They had, just like they had Hillary winning, 10 points ahead. They're never truthful. They never win Reagan. They had Reagan down by 10, and he won by 10. So same old story. So let not your heart be troubled. People can see through it. They know what this gal is, just like they got her yearbook. I mean, they erased that yearbook off quickly. And like Pete was saying, we got hold of that as well. And let me tell you, these were not choir girls, I can assure you. So there is another agenda. She's heavily involved, by the way. Dr. Savage did a research on her supposedly brilliance and her writings, and she's heavily involved in the abortion movement, as well as more chemicals for young women to make bad choices. So if you Google up Savage, look at her background and what she studies and the papers that she writes. She's heavily involved in activism. And big time. So it's not a coincidence that this all took down. She's just going to be the cannon fodder for the Democrats. That's what she's going to be. So we'll see. It'll play out.
Conservative Steve, thank you for the call. Traffic and weather together.
Jim Dutton.
Lori, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller.
Hey, good morning, and good on getting Eric on yesterday, Eric Trump. That was great. And I'm commenting on Judge Kavanaugh. So the Idaho Coalition Against Sexual and Domestic Violence, I got an email from their attorney and posting, and it was a post to Facebook with these 15-year-old girls signing a petition and encouraging others to, with the message. I'm sure it wasn't written by the girls, but it was a photo of them, and then the Hill picked it up, so it's there. So I sent you an email about that, but I responded to them, and taking heat for that. But the problem is that not abiding by the rule of law, not wanting people to confront their accusers, and presuming guilt before establishing innocence with evidence and so on. And so I'm saying let's don't move away from the rule of law. Allow the person to bring their charges, but you can't presume that someone is telling the truth. There's no presumption. You weigh the facts. This is the problem with, we presume the woman is right. We presume she's telling the truth. We presume the man is bad. And the rule of law is going by the wayside. So this is very concerning overall in our society.
Lori, I got your email. Thank you. You have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. More coming up next. We're just getting started, and you're home for Fox News on the radio. Kevin Miller in the morning. Sean Hannity afternoons, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.